Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzukhi. Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz says the government is committed to seeking the best solution regarding Trump's tariffs for mutual benefit. The minister is currently in Washington, set to meet with US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and other relevant officials on April 24th.
Tengku Zafrul said the Malaysian delegation will also engage with business chambers and interest groups to explain Malaysia's stance and share cabinet feedback on the issue. Tengku Zafrul, accompanied by MITI Deputy Secretary-General for Trade, Mastura Ahmad Mustafa, along with other ministry officials, would also raise ASEAN's position on tariffs following recent special meeting of ASEAN economic ministers. In a separate post, he said he had productive talks with US APEC senior official Matt Murray.
The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, downgrades Malaysia's real gross domestic product, or GDP, growth forecast for 2025 to 4.1%. It was from 4.7% previously, reflecting a broader downward revision across the region.
The IMF trimmed its global growth forecast for 2025 to 2.8%, down 0.5 percentage points from its January estimate. The IMF said that the global economy is at a critical juncture, with signs of stabilization emerging through much of 2024 after a prolonged and challenging period of unprecedented shocks. IMF also projected fuel prices to fall by 7.9% in 2025, led by a 15.5% drop in oil prices and a 15.8% fall in coal prices. These declines are expected to be partially offset by a 22.8% rise in natural gas prices, driven by colder than expected weather and the cessation of Russian gas flows to Europe via Ukraine since January.
Singapore has finalised contestants for its May 3rd general election, with the ruling People's Action Party, or PAP, fielding 32 new candidates in the biggest ever refresh of the party that has ruled the city-state since independence in 1965. Now, the move follows a pledge by Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who took office last year and assumed the PAP leadership to bring in new blood, new ideas and new energy to steer the country of 6 million people.
His latest shake-up beats that of predecessors Lee Hsien Loong and Goh Chok Tong, who replaced 24 and 11 politicians respectively in their first elections as premier. The ballot is the first big test for 52-year-old Wong, and his party's share of the popular vote will be closely watched after one of its worst performances in the 2020 contest. The election also comes as Singapore faces uncertainty in its trade-reliant economy and the possibility of recession and job losses caused by US President Donald Trump's tariffs, even though the wealthy city-state will be subject to only a 10% levy compared to much steeper tariffs imposed on its neighbours.
With Lawrence Wong stepping into his first general election as Prime Minister, how much of the PAP's traditional stronghold rests on his personal credibility versus party legacy? Earlier, I had a conversation with analyst Anas Hayyan from the Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, or ASLI.
Singapore's election on 3rd May will be a big moment not only for Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, but also for the party PAP. The PAP has been rock solid since 1959. They have delivered jobs, housing and stability. And we could even see in the general election in 2020 that they have received 61% of the vote share and 83 seats out of 93 seats offered. So that's the legacy at play. But Wong's personal vibe also matters a lot. He's 52, comes from a regular family, so that really resonates with the ordinary Singaporean. And people are used to him being in the spotlight as the Prime Minister, but also when he was the Finance Minister handling COVID and budget. And we could even see that the PAP's new manifesto, Change World, Fresh Team, New Resolved, that was dropped. And it's all about Wong, Prime Minister's leading a younger, a more diverse team. He's offering 32 new candidates and including 13 women to be pushed forward. So that's also a bold step that was taken by Lawrence Wong. But on the flip side, if we could see at the younger voters, they are not just buying the PAP votes or PAP brand from the get-go. So they are worried about cost, inequality, and they also want more voices. When we mentioned about the vote share, the 2020 vote share dipped 9% from 2015, and now opposition like the Workers' Party is eyeing spots for that is marginal, which are less than 10% marginal vote share from the previous election, just like Sengkang. And Wong's got to show that he's not just PAP 2.0, but also someone who gets their struggle. And I believe that, of course, his calm listening style helps, but the PAP's track record is still the bigger anchor. So it's like a mix. Wong's credibility is a key, but legacy carries the weight.
Other than that, I also spoke to Anas about how will Lawrence Wong recalibrate Singapore's strategic neutrality amid an increasingly volatile US-China rivalry, especially when both are major economic partners.
Singapore has always walked a tightrope with the US and China, with China being the largest export destination for Singapore, and of course the US as a massive investor and a security ally. So when Wong became the Prime Minister last year, he has always advocated to not pick any sides and to be pro-Singapore. He said even at a latest lecture or a recent lecture that the world's messy and neither the US nor China will dominate. So Singapore's strategy now is, of course, to diversify its market. It has put also a focus on ASEAN, the EU, and even new ties like the Saudi strategic partnerships. So we could say that he is diversifying his market, leaning also into trade deals like RCEP and CPTPP, and even the current global and geopolitical maneuver by the US president, which are hitting the global markets. So even now, this current election will also appoint the chairman of ASEAN in 2027 from Singapore. And if Prime Minister Lawrence is the chairman, he has advocated to keep the region neutral. And at home, it's of course quite tricky. Some people are leaning towards the US and some are leaning towards China. And I believe that the plan that has been put forward by Wong would keep the economy strong as well as to back this balancing act. And by diversifying ties and betting on ASEAN, he's keeping Singapore nimble, but it's a tougher game than ever. So this election will be very, very important for Singapore moving forward.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Kerap menggaruk kulit kepala disebabkan kelumur, masalahnya lebih mendalam. Gunalah Head and Shoulders, menembusi 5 lapisan untuk membasmi kelumur dan kegatalan. Bebas kelumur sehingga 100%. Head and Shoulders diuji secara dermatologi.
US President Donald Trump says that he has no plans to fire Federal Reserve Chairperson Jerome Powell. However, he wants interest rates to be lower.
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
US President Donald Trump says he will not play hardball with China on trade. He adds that US tariffs on China will be nowhere near the 145% his administration had previously discussed.
Trump expressed optimism that he would make progress with China that would substantially lower tariffs on their imports.
No, I'm not going to mention COVID. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to play hardball with China. I'm going to play hardball with you, President Xi. No. We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice, and we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. And we want them involved, but they have to, and other countries have to make a deal. And if they don't make a deal, we'll set the deal because we're the ones that set the deal. Scott and Howard and myself and others, we're going to be setting the deal, and it'll be a fair deal for everybody, and it'll be, I think it's a process that's going to go pretty quickly.
The comments from Trump came at a swearing-in ceremony for the new SEC chairman, Paul Atkins.
Ceasefire talks over the war in Ukraine collapsed after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff pulled out of the meeting. London's Foreign Office confirmed the meeting was postponed, but said official-level talks will continue behind closed doors.
Rubio had been expected to take part in discussions with Ukrainian, UK and European officials. However, a State Department spokesperson said he would no longer attend due to logistical issues. While ministerial talks in London fell apart, President Donald Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, said he still planned to meet with Ukraine's presidential chief of staff. The setback comes after warnings that the White House would walk away from efforts to broker a peace deal unless there were clear signs of progress soon. Next week marks 100 days of the second presidential term for Trump, who pledged to end the war on his first day back in the office.
Chinese President Xi Jinping says that tariff and trade wars undermine the legitimate rights and interests of all countries. Not only that, according to him, this hurts the multilateral trading system and impact the world economic order.
He made the comments during a meeting with Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev in Beijing. Xi said China is ready to work with Azerbaijan to safeguard the international system and strengthen security and law enforcement ties. The two leaders announced the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership between China and Azerbaijan. It included the signing of 20 cooperation documents as part of China's Belt and Road Initiative in areas including legal, green development, digital economy, intellectual property rights, and aerospace. Bordering Iran, Russia, Georgia, and Armenia, Azerbaijan was one of the first countries to support China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. The BRI was launched in 2013 by Xi as a way to extend China's geopolitical and economic influence through a global infrastructure development push. According to Xinhua news agency, China and Azerbaijan signed a mutual visa exemption for ordinary passport holders to boost exchanges and cooperation between the two countries in various fields. China said it was ready to work with Azerbaijan and other countries along the BRI to improve customs and cargo efficiency and develop a stable China-Europe direct Trans-Caspian Express route.
China's top internet companies are stockpiling billions of dollars worth of NVIDIA's artificial intelligence chips ahead of US restrictions on their export. According to Nikkei Asia, ByteDance, Alibaba and Tencent have secured around 1 million chips, nearly a full year's supply, in anticipation of shipments being cut off in April.
The H2O graphic processing unit has been designed for sale in the Chinese market to comply with US export controls. But the three companies began preparing last year for the possibility that Washington could expand restrictions. The stockpiling comes amid soaring demand for AI computing power in China, driven by applications such as DeepSeek. NVIDIA projected a $5.5 billion hit in the first quarter due to the latest export curbs. Chinese firms are now exploring alternatives in response, including setting up overseas subsidiaries to bypass restrictions. Earlier this week, Reuters reported that Huawei Technologies plan to begin mass shipments of its advanced AI chip to Chinese customers by next month.
That wraps up AWANI tonight. Check out our web portal, keeping you informed on the critical events shaping our world, all in one place at international.astroawani.com. That's all for now. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thanks for watching and good night.